Jason Thor Hall, better known as Pirate Software, has announced that he is no longer working at Off-Brand Games amid the recent Stop Killing Games controversy. For those unfamiliar, in June 2024, Pirate Software partnered with YouTube and Twitch streamer Ludwig Ahren to launch Off-Brand Games, a video game publishing company. Now, for those of you that might not be aware, a lot of the criticisms that Pirate Software has been getting in regards to the Stop Killing Games initiative and his coverage is that he was obviously coming into it from a biased perspective where it would benefit him, super restricting DRMs or piracy measures that could potentially kill a game's life cycle prematurely or end access to a game's lifespan. And one of those games that got brought up is Rivals of Aether, which is a live service model game. Not sure how true it is that this game would like eventually be shut down in the near future and that it wouldn't like have any support based on what's the word that I'm looking for? Based on like server side support. I'm not sure how true that is, but one of the criticisms that he has is that he's obviously, presenting it within his own best interest because he's a corporate shill. That's some of the criticism that people have been giving him. Not sure how true that is, but I guess we'll find out as we keep moving on. Few devs support their games as much as the Rivals of Aether's team. They still patched the original Rivals game 10 years after release. People are now review bombing the game because what? Pirate Software, who has no personal stake in the game, works at Off-Brand Games, feels wrong. Earlier today, July 3, 2025, Pirate Software announced his departure from Off-Brand Games while calling out netizens' unhinged behavior of review bombing the game published by the company on Steam. The former Blizzard Entertainment employee remarked, "I'm no longer working at Off-Brand Games. People were attacking all of the games we were publishing and trying to mass review bomb them. You can dislike the things I say, but this kind of behavior is unhinged. Done a lot there, accomplished a lot. I hope they succeed. Don't really care for the rest of, the virtue signaling. Stop Killing Games is a good initiative, but a few bad actors review bombed us / harassed developers of the games we support at Off-Brand Games. Appreciate Thor stepping down for the betterment of the devs in their games." So Ludwig isn't even trying to like fight for Thor. He's straight up just shipping him off and saying, "Yeah, I appreciate you for getting the fuck out of here so that I don't get like a guilt by association sort of, relationship with you." Pirate Software just keeps getting continuously bullied by everyone on the internet. I mean, PewDiePie didn't like say anything specifically against Pirate Software, but the fact that he spoke up and said anything at all, people are going to use this to essentially stoke the flames against him. To like throw everything he's ever said back in his face and say, "Oh, you wanted to like stop this initiative from ever like, coming to fruition." But now, one of the biggest internet icons in history, one of the biggest internet celebrities in history, has directly come out and supported an initiative that you, as an authority figure, that platformed themselves as an authority figure, spoke out against. Right? It's just like the embarrassment, the humiliation ritual for Pirate Software just keeps getting better and better. Now, I don't really have to read this article. PewDiePie made like a very, very like simple post on his community tab saying, "Hey, for those of you that are interested in protecting games, for those of you that have a vested interest in your access to software and your access to technology, I am paraphrasing pretty heavily, by the way. Go check out this initiative to protect games in the EU." To further stoke the flames against Pirate Software and this never-ending humiliation ritual, Jacksepticeye has also come out in support of the Stop Killing Games initiative, which only serves to act as an antithetical to anything that Pirate Software has ever said. There you go.
Also going to try and keep this succinct and say the things that I know about it and try and not spread misinformation about it, because a lot of people have talked about it and talked about it really well. They've given over some really great information. Ross, Accursed Farms, who has designed the initiative, has a very good video talking about it, which I would leave in the description for you to be able to go and get like the weeds of the information about it. Because again, I'm going to butcher it, and someone like Pirate Software has gone out and done a horrible video on it, misrepresenting.
Oh, this is a lot worse than I thought. It's not. He's not just. He's directly taking a shot at Pirate Software. That's so fucking funny, dude. That's so hilarious. People keep saying misrepresenting. Yes. After looking into it a little bit further and reading what other people have to say, I would say that misrepresenting is somewhat accurate because he's directly utilizing and nitpicking certain parts of the initiative and coming out against those nitpick parts with his own interest in mind.
What it is, giving a ton of misinformation and actually kind of killing the initiative from the get-go. And then,
all right, I wouldn't say that the initiative was being killed from the get-go. That's like, a lot of people will say that. But I don't think one person such as Pirate Software has the potency the strength to really, I want to say, stop an initiative like this in its track, to stop momentum like this. I don't think that's the case. I think that he might have done a little bit of, community, like he might have done a little bit of community damage to, I want to say, a handful of individuals on the internet, not a handful, to a good portion of individuals on the internet that probably wouldn't have voted for it or against it otherwise, right? However, the reason why the initiative itself didn't perform well isn't because Pirate Software froze it by misrepresenting it. It's because not nearly as many people, not nearly as many vocal figures have come out and really, propped it up and presented it as a cause that people should absolutely rally behind. It wasn't until now, when people caught wind after, I think there was a domino effect. Pirate Software gets exposed for the WoW situation. Pirate Software then gets humiliated for the WoW situation, for being like a narcissistic, egotistical douchebag that can never admit he's wrong, especially when he's wrong. People start digging into him and making fun of all of his previous L's in the past, such as, his failure to continuously develop his game, considering he's obviously taking more time to stream than to work on his product. And when this person, what was his name, Ross, comes out and makes a video about how the initiative is like borderline to failing, he cites Pirate Software as a lead issue. I don't think that's the case. I just think that they're using Pirate Software as a scapegoat for its failure, which is allowing other people to hop on and talk out against somebody who, is obviously not well liked, throwing their punches and utilizing that as a huge flag to like essentially signal everybody, hey, look at how this guy fucked up. Because he fucked up, everybody should be aware of this to prove him wrong. And there's nothing nobody on the internet likes more than bandwagoning behind a cause. And that's exactly what's going on here. Like, the perfect conditions have been met, but I wouldn't necessarily blame Pirate Software for killing the initiative before it had the chance to fly. I think that there was probably a little bit of reputational harm that he caused at the time, but not enough to kill the initiative. But it's funny how they're essentially utilizing this guy as as a flag to rally behind.
Just being very egotistical about it, not saying sorry, and really opening up to it and being like, "Shit, my bad," and then
Okay.
Fixing any of the things.
That is absolutely fair criticism. That is absolutely fair criticism. Maybe Pirate Software could have said, you know what, I still stand by what I said. I still stand by the fact that some of these things might make it more difficult for the developers. Ultimately, it is humans' best interest to make products for consumers more consumer friendly, considering the mass amount of money being spent these days is on media. People don't really buy physical products as much as they used to. Everything is about media, and people should have access to their media long term, instead of and even if they did buy physical products, like for example games like The Crew, if you did buy a physical copy, it's not like you can utilize that long term unless servers are kept alive one way or another, blah 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 blah. There's a possibility that he could have stood by by his criticism and said, you know what, this will affect developers like me in the future. However, it is in our best interest to strengthen companies and pro consumer practices to get this initiative to pass, so that we can employ some better business practices. And if I have to work harder, then so be it, for the sake of my consumers, for the sake of my supporters, for the sake of the people that are going to be buying our product in the future. He could have done that, but no, he didn't do that. This, about Pirate Software being an egotistical moron who can't bend the knee, is absolutely fair. Just to add insult to injury, the initiative did break 1 million. 1 million total signatures within 2 weeks. This initiative went from 400,000, it got 600,000. Again, I don't think that Pirate Software really nullified any momentum that it had. I just think that people weren't being as vocal as they should have been all that time ago. But now they are. And they're utilizing somebody as a scapegoat to point a finger at and be like, hey, he killed this, in order to prove him wrong. Let's revive it.
To it, but if you just want to watch this video,
but you know what,
I
think it's a bit unfair. I think it's a bit unfair, but you can't help the Schadenfreude, as Dickers loves to say. You can't help but at least relish in the downfall. Can't help but relish in the embarrassment of an egotistical douchebag. So as he's out here playing the victim, as it turns out, even the web archive showed only 3 people talking about pirate software. Far cry from the review bombing being painted here. Also, mostly positive, very positive, overwhelmingly positive, right? No matter what you do, it's hard to see or say or prove that there is like an abundance of review bombing that is actually like detracting from these games. It is difficult to prove. Pirate Nation made this post. Pirate Software is lying again, playing the victim and blaming everyone but himself. Yes, he's stepping down, try to make it seem as if like, he was forced to resign, try to make it seem as if, unfortunately, due to all of the people harassing him, all of these bad actors that Ludwig claims harassing him, he no longer has a job. He's out of a job. Reality is that it doesn't seem to be the case, at least according to graphs from the 29th of June, 2025. Doesn't seem to be the case that people are review bombing games that he's associated with or working with.
Working at off-brand games, says Pirate Software. People were attacking all of the games we were publishing and trying to mass review bomb them. You can dislike the things I say, but this kind of behavior is unhinged. Oh man, let's check out the carnage, because off-brand games are extremely vulnerable to that kind of attack right now. See, as far as I can tell, they've got 3 products on Steam right now, and 2 of them are only available in the form of a free demo, with an independent demo page each. What this means from the perspective of someone who wants to review bomb their games, get together with other people that use bots, there are soft targets to deface. Because with the demo, the only barrier is downloading it, running it for a bit, and then you're allowed to leave a review. You don't have to pay anything. See, I downloaded Bonnie Bear Saves Frog Time demo, and now I can leave a review. I'm not going to, and you shouldn't either, but it's right there, and for anyone who wants to hit all their games, it's effortless. So with review bombers targeting all their products, this is gonna be oh, it's literally received 1 negative review ever, and that was in January. So their other soft target with a free demo, Aethermancer, that must have been defaced with a review bomb, right? Not exactly. Okay, so their other game that—
Yeah, so essentially, no matter which way you put it, no matter which way Pirate Software tries to spin it, he is just straight up lying about his company being review bombed. And Ludwig is out here trying to like feed into this. Does Ludwig even understand or know any of this, like, the data behind this company? Why would he respond to this knowing that Pirate Software is absolutely bullshitting?
It's actually out, Rivals of Aether 2, and Ludwig, who I believe is a founder of Off-Brand Games, said for sure that one is being review bombed. Such a bummer Rivals 2 is getting any shit. People are now review bombing the game. The now deleted
No way.
tweet who is quoting doesn't seem to call for such a thing, but maybe people underneath it were saying they were gonna.
Hold on. So, based on this tweet right here.
The now deleted tweet who is quoting does.
Yeah, based on this tweet right here. Such a bummer Rivals 2 is getting any shit for this. Reminder that Pirate Software is a key figure at Off-Brand Studios, which is publishing Rivals of the Aether 2. Yeah, this is like one of the criticisms that he got a couple days ago, if I recall correctly, or like a week ago, where people were saying that he was a corporate shill that is only like interested in pushing his specific narrative and agenda because it'll benefit companies like these that he works for, where live model games would require more cost and more development to like make them, available offline long term. And Ludwig probably read this and interpreted it as, such a bummer Rivals 2 is getting any shit for this. They still patched the original Rivals game 10 years after release. People are now review bombing the game because what? Pirate Software has no personal stake in the game, works at Off-Brand Games, feels wrong. So yeah, he misinterpreted this. Okay, so what happened here? Did Pirate Software make the claim that it was being review bombed first days ago, and then Ludwig said it after the fact? Assuming I'm getting my my timeline straight. Or did Ludwig say it first and then Pirate Software? Now I'm curious. Was Pirate Software forced to step down of his own volition, or was there like sort of a communication behind the scenes where Ludwig told Pirate Software to step down amicably so that he doesn't get fired? Huh. To avoid an issue like this. I'm curious. So does anybody get what I'm saying? Did Pirate Software step down to play the victim so that he can get, what's the word, sympathy points? Or was he fired?
Doesn't seem to call for such.
How do you, as the owner of a company, or as the co-owner, or as I believe Off-Brand Games is like I believe Ludwig is the founder of Off-Brand Games. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Ludwig is the founder of Off-Brand Games. How do you, as the founder of Off-Brand Games, or like, how are you not in touch with any of like the data around these video games, and then claim that it's being review bombed when there's like no such evidence of that? I'm so confused.
such a thing, but maybe people underneath it were saying they were gonna. And he confirmed today that the games they support have been getting review bombed. So we're looking for mass negative reviews of Rivals of Aether 2 that are not about the game, or are obviously.
But yeah. It's a contradictory statement, but what I'm saying is, like, in this instance, was he forced to step down, and now he's pretending, like, like he's stepping down out of his own volition, right? Like, did they plan this behind the scenes? Like, was he forced to step down? But he's pretending like he's doing so out of his own volition so that he can, gain sympathy points to, like, not cause too much of an issue so that Ludwig doesn't get too much flack. Was he fired? Like, what actually happened here is what I'm questioning now.
Not really about the game, even if they pretend to be. That's going to be way harder to bomb because there's a price tag on it. Are people bombing it somewhere else, like on Metacritic? No, 3 negative reviews ever. So Rivals of Aether 2 has been review bombed on Steam. I have to ask, where? We want to see a big old red spike. Where is it? In the month of June, the most negative reviews it got in a day was 6. As far as I can count, less than 10 have anything to do with Pirate Software or Stop Killing Games. But there aren't even enough negative reviews in total that if they were all about that, it could be called any kind of review bomb. But of course, because Ludwig said it was being review bombed, people went on to counter that. One user's recommendation reads, "Game is getting review bombed for some blank that ain't even true."
So in this case, I mean, I'm probably pause-ending. Did Ludwig lie? Was this an intentional Ludwig lie, or did Ludwig, misrepresent the situation at hand on accident by misinterpreting a tweet?
But Lamau.
Or is he doing this sort of like, soft-bellied behavior?
Ironic. When I originally tweeted my skepticism of the review bomb, something became clear. People heard about the bomb, went to the page, saw it was on Mixed, and seemed to have thought it dropped down to 50% because of this review bomb. The #1 post about review bombing in their subreddit talks about it dropping to 52% after this review bomb. But that is actually intensely misleading. So we do know a little while before the SKG-related reviews, it was on 60%. They're right about that. And on June 26th, post-bombing, it was down to 52%. They're right about those numbers, but there's something they're ignoring. It was 60% of 155 reviews, and then 52% of 121 reviews. This is because, of course, recent reviews is a 30-day window. The video that pissed everyone off dropped on June 23rd. So, what was Rivals of Aether 2's 30-day average the day before? 24th May to 22nd June, inclusive. 30 days. Using the archives to count day by day, by my maths there were 130 reviews in that period, 72 of those being positive. That gets you 55% positive the day before Ross's video. So the claim is, that video got your review bombed, and your recent average dropped.
Okay, so Ludwig definitely, again, he either doesn't know the data or he lied.
3%
Either Ludwig doesn't know like anything about the data behind his company or he lied.
by the 26th. Not much of a bomb, is it? But it gets worse. If we shift that window 3 days, so we're looking at the 27th of May to the 25th of June, the day before the positive counter bomb, you lose 2 negative, 3 negative, and 3 negative, which is 8. In the days that replace those when the window moves, you got 4 negative, 1 negative, and 3 negative, which is also 8. But in those 3 days you lose from the window shift, you lose 2, 3, and 7 positive reviews, which is 12. And it's replaced by days where you got 2, 2, and 1, which is 5. A decrease of 7. Advanced maths, I know. Which dumps you down to 123 total, 65 of which are positive, landing you at just below 53% positive. The recent review percentage went down because you got the same number of negatives, but less positives. That ain't a bomb. Let's take a peep at Pirate Software's self-published game. Now that is what a bomb looks like. Fair few of the new ones have barely any playtime, but that—
Okay. So either Ludwig, because I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt now that I'm essentially like implicating him of lying. So either Ludwig misrepresented the tweet, he's lying, or he misunderstood. Like something was lost in translation, something was lost in communication, where Pirate Software was being review bombed, his game was being review bombed, and for whatever reason, Ludwig assumed that because of that, his own games were also being review bombed. Or Pirate Software through his through his like negative reputation, off-brand games were also being review bombed. So there's either there's like some incredible misunderstanding going on here, or somebody lied.
That can be explained by the game itself, and they just talk about Pirate Software's takes. Maybe he has a legit grievance there, but this isn't off-brand published. Rivals of Aether 2, now apparently some have been deleted, but I cannot find more than 10. I can't even find 10. 10 reviews that are clearly not actually about the game. Now when you get really bombed, Steam steps in and drops one of these. That hasn't happened here, and you can still take that filter off if you want. Plus, on Rivals, reviews that are just talking about Moldavius are still there. I would suggest that there is zero evidence any kind of bombing happened. Just a minuscule number of annoyed people. Not even enough to change the 30-day negative review quantity until you hit the 26th, which is the day the massive counter bomb.
Yeah, if these games aren't being review bombed, if they weren't being review bombed earlier, they are definitely going to be review bombed now. 4 hours ago, 83,000 views. A lot of people are going to start realizing that somebody lied or somebody was being dishonest in some way.
Happen.
I wonder if Ludwig is going to have like any accountability to, to face after this. Because based on like the information that is being presented, I might be completely misunderstanding this as well. Ludwig probably misinterpreted something or lied and said that his video games were being review bombed, which is not the case. This is going to be another one of those situations where Ludwig is going to have to face a level of accountability.
And
is going to have to answer for what's exactly going on.
All 6 of those negative reviews are from people who put substantial time into the game and are talking about the game. One guy who's played it for 40 hours went out of his way to say, yeah, he knows about the Pirate Software stuff, it annoys him, but this ain't about that. Even though there's content in the game that was used to promote and fundraise for Pirate Software's ferret rescue. I didn't know about that financial connection, but I checked and it is absolutely true. If there's anything I'll give Pirate Software a big thumbs up for, it's rescuing animals. But in those reviews, that's the only mention, and one weirdo just pasted the about section. But from all that I've seen, Pirate Software's statement about why he's stepping down doesn't exactly strike me as real or true. And it absolutely stinks of face saving and fear of what might happen in the future rather than anything that really has. Little bit like that unlawful DMCA claim. Feel free to prove me wrong, but I did my usual digging and didn't find shit. He did say trying to mass review bomb them, so maybe there's evidence of a terrible plot. But before
trying to mass review bomb them. No, I think this is just I think this might just be like him utilizing a bit of double speak to say, oh, perhaps the games weren't review bombed, but due to how people were treating my game, there is a possibility that they would have targeted off-brand games next due to this connection that I have with Ludwig and the idea that I am a corporate shill, by trying to protect live service games, considering that Rivals of the Aether is a live service model.
Trying to mass review bomb them, so maybe there's evidence of a terrible plot. But be forewarned that some screenshot of a dipshit in a Discord isn't going to cut it for me, especially when they aren't competent enough to even hit your free demos.
Yeah, no, Ludwig is absolutely a snake. Absolutely a snake.
You don't quit your passion job.
Something happened. I don't know if I'm interpreting this in the worst faith imaginable, but something happened between Ludwig and Pirate Software, which led to this. Something happened between both of them.
For that.
Maybe Pirate Software became too much of a brand risk, considering that the internet is collectively siding against him. And again, utilizing him as a flag, as a red flag for killing an initiative that would have been pro-consumer. And of course, in situations like these, when the average individual is the one that would be suffering from the corporate greed of somebody like Pirate Software, because that's like what's essentially being presumed here. That's essentially like the narrative that people are running with. Of course, having somebody like Pirate Software on board would be incredibly negative to the reputation of a company that you're trying to upstart, of a company that you're trying to filled. So I'm curious. I'm curious what exactly the conversation or what exactly happened between Ludwig and Pirate Software here.
He should focus more on something he's good at, being a sacrificial lamb. Blows himself up fighting SKG, signatures go through the roof. Gets hated on a little bit in a tiny dusting of negative reviews. Positive reviews go through the roof, and the game gets put on a nice 30% sale. Maybe I'll pick it up. Don't have much time, but I loved the first one. Oh, the video was gonna end here, but stop the press.
It's probably just as simple as Ludwig and Pirate Software both catching heat, separate reasons, focusing all of that hate and attention. One company is foolish. Possibility. It's a possibility.
Software has given an update, I just noticed. For those trying to say this is now somehow a lie, the abuse was across socials, people on Discord, Twitter, Reddit, and some reviews on Steam. Oh, so you know it wasn't review bombed. Abuse and whatever, sure. Horrible. That ain't all you said, though. Indie games are fragile things, and attacks like that hit hard. Overall sentiment was to bash the games.
Which is an incredibly ironic thing for him to say, considering the fact that he threatened, if I recall correctly, a small developer, a small indie developer, with a DMCA, or a cease and desist, if I recall correctly. No matter which way you spin it, this situation seems very, very suspect. I might be speculating a lot, but I'm inclined
The
to believe that
26th.
something strange. I'm inclined to believe that something really strange is going on behind the scenes. I don't think Maldavius, Fig Tree, Pirate Software, Thor is only stepping down to make and lying about this to make himself the victim. No, it's more than that. It's more than that. There's something else going on. Who knows if Ludwig, had a conversation with a guy and was like, "Hey, man, I need you to you're kind of like bad for our rep right now. Could you take a trip?" There's something else going on here. It seems very, very fishy. It seems very, very smelly. I don't like it. I don't like exactly what's happening here.